just corrected from from American English to British English for the tracking. So thank you very much. I'm Giacinto Barresi. I'm organizing with Gianmarco Pisanelli the first of this series of workshops of the UKRAS, the British network for robotics and autonomous systems. And it will be dedicated to assistive, prosthetic, and rehabilitative robotics. We're going to have a series of 8 webinars over 1 year dedicated to different topics that are relevant for the internationalization of the British robotics. And today I'm honored to introduce Professor Claudio Castellini from the University of Erlangen-Nürnberg, the Friedrich Alexander University of Erlangen-Nürnberg, Professor Carlos Cifuentes from the UV Bristol, the University of the West of England, and specifically from the Bristol Robotics Laboratory, and Zhi Kang Tai from Fourier and Fourier Rehab in particular. I'm proud to present them and to introduce the topic. Let's say that we can start immediately. Just remember that there will be a recording already active for this webinar, and I ask everyone to ask questions mainly through the chat that is available for this webinar. So thank you very much. I will ask Professor Claudio Castellini to start us first. Thank you very much.
How much time do we have, Giacinto, once again?
You have 15 minutes for the presentation, then there will be 5 minutes for the questions, and after the presentation of all 3 speakers, there will be a discussion for, let's say, 15-20 minutes.
All right, great. So I'm starting my timer, so I hope I won't get too much over time.
Don't worry, you're not like me that I need to be interrupted often. See you.
All right. So, well, thank you very much for the organization, Gianmarco and Giacinto. It's a pleasure and an honor. I'm honored to be in the first webinar of this series organized by the UKRAS. This is wonderful. And so it's not so often the case that one gets the opportunity of explaining a few ideas in such a general setting. So I'm really happy to, I hope I'll deliver a decent talk to you guys. Right, so my name is Claudio and I have 2 institutions. The main one is the University of Erlangen-Nürnberg, and the second is the Institute of Robotics Mechatronics of the German Aerospace Center. I have a very small amount of slides about introducing my institutes. So first of all, meet the team. We are 7 people actively on. I guess you should be able to see my laser pointer if I wave it like this. So 4 PhD students, 2 postdoctorals, and 3 external PhD students so far are part of my team. Our name, so we were called the Assistive Intelligent Robotics Group, and our motto is Ideas in Motion for People. So possibly I will be able to sell an argument during this webinar about this. Just a couple slides about the FAU. So it's a relatively large university. I think it's the 6th or 7th largest university in the German Federation. We are a full spectrum university with 5 faculties and 40,000 resident students, which is remarkable because Erlangen in total has 120,000. So 1 person in 3 during term time is actually a student. And there's a lot of us, so 660 staff, so faculty staff, I would say. University has 5 faculties, so full spectrum, and we are in the Faculty of Engineering, of course, located in this rather ugly-looking brutalist building in the southern section. This is always the case. I never seen a Faculty of Engineering looking much better than this one, which is probably one of the characteristics of the faculties of engineering and of engineers, possibly all over the place. I'm just kidding. There's 6 departments in the faculty, and 1/4 of the total students of the FAU actually belong to our faculty. And you have a rather remarkable turnout of 3 third-party funding, actually. So within this faculty, there's 6 departments. So let's get closer and closer to our lab. And we are in this department here, which is called Artificial Intelligence in Biomedical Engineering, or IBE, if you prefer. I'm really glad that the flagship image for the whole department comes from my lab, actually. And this is Marek Sierotowicz, one of my postdoctorals. And he's doing some teleoperation thing with two of these standard, very efficient Franca MK robots. And we mounted two prosthetic hands on top of them. So this is like show off of prosthetic control. Shameless advertisement. This is our website. We keep it very up to date. So we try to do the best. And we and we're always happy to find motivated, brilliant students who want to spend some time at our lab, especially graduate students and cooperations, both at the German and European and international level, of course. So if you're interested, just please dial this website, and we'll be glad to drop us a mail, and we'll be glad to talk to you, actually. The second institution I belong to, 20% of my time, is the DLR. So the German Aerospace Center is Think NASA in Germany. So the mission of the DLR is to enforce the space program of Germany. Now, Germany doesn't build any space devices, but they cooperate a lot with other space entities all over the world. And especially we, the Institute of Robotics Mechatronics, are located in this unpronounceable village, and this is in the very deep south of Germany, Oberpfaffenhofen. There's a number of topics, mostly space-oriented, that the RM Institute deals with. And not incidentally, there's a section called Medical and Healthcare Robotics, and this is where formerly I had a group, and now I'm an associate professor to the institute, so to speak. These guys here, actually, Annette Hagengruber and Jörn Vogel, my colleagues, they actually won the Cybathlon this year actually, in the competition for powered wheelchairs. So we're pretty proud of that. And one last slide of introduction, shameless advertising of the ICOR webinars. Since now the ICOR sponsors this series of webinars, I feel sort of entitled to invite you to dial into our webinars as well, which are mostly centered on rehabilitation robotics. But still, we've also been dealing with, for instance, embodiment, which is a psychological issue, and then Giacinto was part of it because of his great competence. Extended reality in rehabilitation and functional assessment. This is a typical clinical issue. So it's not specifically robotics. I hope you would like it. You will like it if you will dial it. So now assistive robots. What I'm going to say is a little more than just prosthetics. So this is my very simplified taxonomy of assistive robots, in particular dealing with exoskeletal prosthetics and rehabilitation. Care robots and surgical are not dealt with directly by our lab, although we have people who do that in this university. And so, well, again, just not to annoy you, to bore you too much, a couple definition and names. So I have a background as a mathematician, so I need to clearly start with a few definitions. So assistive robots are devices which physically operate in an environment together with the user. So the connection to the user is tight. It's intimate, I would say. And especially in our case, we deal with users with motor impairments, which means that we really have to be careful that the human-robot interaction part is probably the most important, as far as I see, the most important part of studying assistive robotics. The aim of these devices, our aim is to restore a user's lost motor function. It can be an amputation, it can be spinal cord injury, it can be stroke. Anywhere you cannot move properly anymore, we would like to help. Now, assistive robots is a specific sub-branch of robotics, of course, and there's a number of added requirements and hurdles with respect to general robotics. Devices must guess users' intended action because our users cannot move anymore, so they cannot control the robots in the standard way, so to speak. And the interaction, the intent detection must be smooth. They must be human-friendly by all means, because these people are disabled. Hopefully, they will not be anymore at the end of the therapy if this is rehabilitation robotics. In the case of assistive robots, well, these things need to be companions for life to these people. And so user-friendliness and acceptance, psychological, social, and operational, this is paramount. And again, I mentioned Giacinto because he's one of the pioneers of this. So letting this seep through the robotics community. In general, we are also interested in generating somatosensory feedback in order to close the loop where there is a human in the loop, right? And in this talk, I concentrate on the first two issues, mostly on the first one, because this is where the bottleneck lies right now, in my opinion. So intelligence in assistive robots. Machine learning, I'm no fan of that. Although I use machine learning and I published a few papers on theoretical machine learning back in the days, I don't think you should use machine learning if ever you can avoid it. There could be simpler solutions, so stuff that, our people could use and still be happy with that, not using machine learning. But if the impairment is severe, then machine learning is the choice. So what kind of intelligence we mean here? Guessing a user's intended action. So there's muscle activity left, either in the impaired part of the body or somewhere else, and we want to interpret it. So there are a number of different interfaces. We try to use them all. The point is to make it reliable. And now some very simplified maths. So I have a general problem of machine learning is to estimate a probability density or distribution function. So I'm all about finding this F. I believe there's an F mapping signals to actions. So my amputee wants to close the hand and the hand should close the hand. That's the function I'm looking for. So my X is whatever biosignals I'm looking for, and my Y hat is the estimated action that I need my prosthesis or exoskeleton to perform. Now in my representation, my graphical representation, the blue one is the input space and the pink one, the light red one is the output space, right? Usually you have electromyography, and say in this case, you could have the angle of flexion of your wrist, prosthetic wrist in this case. Now, interpret the user's muscle activity, right? So this is a remarkable paper. Well, sorry, this is one of my papers, so I wouldn't say it's remarkable. It's very old. It's actually 15 years ago. So we found out that the separation among the clusters of data obtained by people, each cluster representing a different intended action, is remarkable. So this person was 65 years old at the time and had been amputated 40 years before. So the wealth of information is huge. We only double quotes, need to find out how to exploit this information here, right? So in this case, my input space gets divided into a series of clusters, each one associated to an action. And that's how I want to build my machine learning model, right? Now I have a couple more examples, like we used ultrasound scanning to detect the intended activity of amputees back in the days. And then, so in this case, you would not have EMG, but US like ultrasound, and the representation of the intended action also goes onto single fingers. So each 0 or 1 denotes the activation or not activation of a single finger. And now the result we had was remarkable, meaning that you could control single fingers and play a virtual piano, literally like single fingers, and determining the force. So you could hear louder sounds coming from the virtual piano according to your intended force. Now there's a further remark. This is a really remarkable paper. So Farina and others, again in 2014, discovered that offline analysis does not transfer to online analysis. This is a scatter plot in which there's no correlation visible. So they had results in offline analysis, but that did not translate onto online analysis. So whatever data you collect and then you do your classification on it, you're not guaranteed at all that this will be a good classifier for when you go online, right? And this is the main problem here. The main problem is that muscle activity by users changes completely from now to 5 minutes in the future due to a number of different reasons. Brain plasticity, stroke, we want to have brain plasticity. So we want to have this activity to change in time. If it doesn't, then we're failing, right? But then this brings me back to so this is another remarkable image from a paper by Nitish Thakur. Signals on the first day, signals on the 10th day. As you can see, they're changing completely. So if you train your machine learning system here, it will miserably fail on the data collected on the 10th day. And so this is my second, much more problematic problem, so to speak. Now I have to estimate a non-stationary probability distribution. And now one way to solve the problem is continual learning or incremental learning, however you want to call it. You start with a null set of data, and then you incrementally build the set of data a long time. So every now and then you will be collecting new data or taking data off the previous data set, and then you need to rebuild or better update the model. So this is one of the possible ways to keep your machine up to date what the user is trying to do right now, not neglecting what he was doing in the past, right? And now the point is, how and when do you update the data set? Well, you ask the subject, or you ask the therapist, or you do it yourself as an experimenter because you deem that the activity is no longer very good. Or the machine itself finds out that the confidence interval is very low, so the confidence is now nil, so the machine doesn't know what to do, and so you gather more data. Right? Now, I've seen a few attempts to mechanize this, like using reinforcement learning, for instance. And there's a few other groups in the world who are trying to push incremental learning into the community. Now, I don't like that. Doesn't mean that it's not the right way, right? This is my feeling. And that's because once you do that, you try to use, say, reinforcement learning or any other kind of automated solution, you're basically taking the user out of the picture. And this goes against my principle. So I want my user to be in the loop, to give me the good data I need, and even to make the user acquainted with the system and improve the adaptation of the user to the machine. Right? So this is a different representation, the graphical representation of different steps in time in which you collect more data and then you update your model. And so, well, human and machine intelligence learning, machine learning and human learning together, that's my keyword here. And it extends to all realms, I would say, of assistive robotics, and even goes past that. So even in augmentation of robots, so augmentation robots. And now what is co-adaptation in my specific naive view here is this updating the model in time at some point stops because the machine has a high confidence and the user is completely satisfied. And so that's where the process halts, and that's where we have co-adaptation. Until in the future, maybe things change completely, in which case we have to start, but not from scratch, that is building on the knowledge that we have gathered before. And yeah, there's a number of ways to measure co-adaptation. And there's subjective measures, so questionnaires, satisfaction, and objective measures, so checking the change in the signals or checking the performance. So what you want to have is that these measures agree with one another. At least you want to see some kind of correlation between subjective and objective measures. And then you know that you have a win. This is an experiment that we did with this young woman who was born without her right forearm. Now, this prosthesis, this is a work we do in cooperation with INAIL in Italy and the Italian Institute of Technology. So she was able to teach the prosthesis to recognize new movements as time goes by using this little keypad here, right? And that's possibly our best success so far. We're trying to publish this on a good journal, but so the point is subjective and objective measures agree with one another. There is correlation, so there is agreement, so we might be so bold as to say that this is an example of co-adaptation, and this is what we should pursue in general. And so to conclude my talk, we need competencies from a number of different realms here, including psychology and design science. This is just beautiful. We need to learn each other's language, right? We need to understand each other's word. And this is why I'm so happy that Giacinto is in the loop with us, because people like Giacinto are really exactly the kind of profile we engineers need, besides the clinicians, of course. Having said that, I think I'm done. So thank you very much. And yeah, I'm open to questions, of course.
Claudio, thank you very much. Thank you very much also for mentioning me, but I'm really embarrassed. And I'm really happy that this attention towards the user is characterizing the very first webinar and the very first talk in our webinar series. I just want also to thank you and Professor Robert Riener for allowing us to have the sponsorship of ICOR, the International Consortium for Rehabilitation Robotics. And before my questions, probably it's better I ask someone else that probably will be less biased than me, Gianmarco, or anyone in the audience to ask you about any question. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just start by breaking the ask questions, but if anyone in the chat or they even want to open the mic, just feel free to ask questions. I've got a few actually, but I'll start with one. So looking at the places where you work now, obviously you work a bit of DLR and then on the at the university as well. I know you specialize in rehabilitation and medical in both, but do you see any sort of similar topics or similarities between challenges that you meet in space or in general space robotics and medical robotics? Like for instance, I don't know, is there any advantages in some research that can be done on microgravity that can bring advantages in rehabilitation or similar? So yeah, are there any similarities in there and the challenges in space that you know of? I'm not even sure if you could directly work in space, but
I can definitely see how this stuff here would translate to space robotics. And this is exactly, well, this is the reason why they allowed me to do medical robotics at the Aerospace Center of Germany. These interfaces, I don't build robots. You know, I buy robots or I use academic prototypes built by someone else, and then we build and concentrate on the interface. So signals to actions and actions to feedback. Now, these things are so hard to deal with, especially if you want them to be reliable, so practically usable, is, you know, these people have no idea what they want to do, our patients. They need to learn in course of time. Well, these interfaces are so hard to design that whatever works in this field could translate to space robotics, in which you have, well, able-bodied subjects, the astronauts, who are in such a different environment compared to the usual environment we have on Gravity 1 here on the surface of Earth, that they definitely need to learn how to use properly the robotic artifacts that they are wearing or teleoperating. So yeah, I believe there's a lot of, so especially this idea of continual incremental learning is, I think it's a good key to solve quite a few problems in space robotics, at least as far as the human robot interaction is concerned.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's interesting. And that's what I thought as well, because I'm assuming when gravity changes, people become a bit less able, don't they?
Yeah.
And another one was on, you kind of answered it. I put this question down, wrote it down a bit at the beginning of your presentation, but then you kind of answered it later on, but I'm still going to ask it. So you mentioned that you don't particularly like AI in the sort of for the classifications sort of or the use of machine learning in rehabilitation. And my question was, but what's the alternative when it comes to especially classifying? And because when if you want to understand the user intention, the data, you can't really work on first principle, can you? So what would be the alternative to AI?
You mentioned exactly first principles. So I have a background as a mathematician, and the beauty of being an engineer is that you need to know the first principles, but that you have to sweat bullets to make them work somehow, right? Yeah, I think the answer is in this. There's a specific slide in which I say, so back to prosthetics, which is my field. If you have a transradial amputation, so the simplest one, say for upper limb amputees, so you still have your elbow. Now you have 1 or 2 degrees of freedom that you want to control, where you could have more, right? But are they really useful? In that case, you need to use machine learning. If you have a hand which can, say, smoothly move the wrist and the single fingers, in that case, you have to use machine learning. If you only need to grab stuff, then a body-powered prosthesis will still be the most cost-effective option for you. It costs 1/50th of a modern system like, I don't know, the Hannes End, so the one you showed you. The Hannes End is specifically cheap. It's designed to be cheap, so it's slightly better than that. But in general, a body-powered prosthesis will be much cheaper, much more reliable, and it even gives you for free somatosensory feedback. So my idea is that, yes, you use machine learning, but only when it's necessary. Unless you can produce a hugely better benefit for the user than using the simple solution. So you're facing the choice. You spend, say, 2,500 on a TRS prosthetics, body power prosthesis, or you spend 50,000, or you convince your health insurance to spend 50,000 on one of these devices. Now, the only way I see that you would go for the latter option is if this latter option enables you to reach 100-fold the functions that you can reach using the former solution. We are not yet there. That's exactly why we're working in this field.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Thank you very much again. I guess I don't know how much time we've got left. I'm going to ask another question from the chat, and then we can probably move on. So we've got someone saying, thank you for the talk, Professor Claudio. I'm from Cardiff University and working on physics-informed and learning-based manipulation. I'm wondering, aside from estimating user intentions, what are the challenges when it comes to scenarios where the devices are in contact with objects? And then it carries on asking, or when the users want to perform complex interaction with objects in close contacts.
So, okay, right. I can imagine two big avenues that we have to pursue. One of them is getting better hardware. So you need to have, okay, a prosthetic hand cannot be as complicated as a robotic manipulator, a multi-digit robotic manipulator. It must be lighter, it must be smaller, it must be, the right size, the right weight. So, and so a prosthetic hand which can smoothly move the wrist and the single fingers is not yet there. So we would need something like that in order to improve the manipulation skills of our amputees. And this would actually have a very beneficial effect because they would stop using compensation movements. This is what makes them sick in the spine, or it changes their balance. There's a number of problems that the patient undergoes if we don't do that. Now, in this case, in this specific manipulation case, I would, second point, advocate for very fine somatosensory feedback. Having a hand which is very complicated, and it enables you in principle to say manipulate a ball, so like playing with the ball in your hand, makes no sense if you don't feel when the fingers are touching the ball and with what strength, with what force. And now I need to say, I'm not an expert in somatosensory feedback. There's at least one big friend of mine, Strenia Doshen at Aalborg, so he's Mr. Somatosensory Feedback in Europe, I would say. And those guys are studying exactly to determine what exactly to feed back and how to feed it back. So first of all, is it discrete events or a continual force profile? And a second point, which is much harder, is how do you feed it back to the patient? So far they use vibrotactile motors or electrical stimulation on the skin. Who knows what? I mean, direct connection to the nerves, maybe. There's a last bit of information. There's a remarkable paper, again by Dario Farina and Assmann. It's about 10 years ago. They dissected cadaver nerves in the forearm, and then they colored the motor neurons in a different way from the sensory neurons. And they determined that sort of 95 to 99% of the neurons that you have in your arm are sensory, not motor, notwithstanding the incredible complexity of the motion of your hand, which tells us how important somatosensory feedback is. That's no visual feedback at all. This is the feeling of texture and force that you have from your skin, the Golgi receptor, the corpusculi inside the somatosensory system. So we need to work a lot in that field as well.
That's interesting. Especially, it sounds like it's all localized, all that sensory network of information. That's very interesting. But I think we might have to stop here because otherwise we might be over time. So shall we move to the next one then? I think is Carlos next, Giacinto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Carlos,
you very much, Claudio. It's time for Carlos. Before the presentation of Carlos, I just would like to thank again Claudio and the ICOR consortium. And I have a couple of questions for Claudio later that are related to one of the UKRI calls, especially for the discovery science, because his discourse on the intelligence for making the machine understand how to interact with the human sounds like that kind of topic that is one of the priorities for the UKRI agency in the British Isles. Thank you very much. And now it's time for Carlos to talk. Carlos Cifuentes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me know you can see my screen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we can see the presentation now, yeah.
Great. So let me just put the timer as well. Great. Thank you for this opportunity, Giacinto, Gianmarco, and very honored to be side to Claudio and Tai in this great discussion, showing different ways to solve the problem or to support people with different conditions. So I will start talking a little bit about our group, Assistive Robotics, and in general, our lab. This is the agenda. We can say that we are more in the area of application. So we work a lot with users. We want to understand needs, and from these needs, of course, develop solutions for there. So we collaborate very close with the NHS here in UK is the healthcare national system. So we collaborate with them in understanding how we can support. And as we know, we are in an ongoing crisis in general around the world for many reasons. But technology looks that is a solution or can be a solution in the future. So we want to understand a lot of needs and how we can deal with technology in that needs. I will introduce some of the work that we are doing in socially assisted robots and also wearable robotics. We are based here in Bristol. Bristol Robotics Lab is one of the biggest labs in UK and in the world. We are around 500 people, and as you can see in the video, we do many things about robotics, from basic science of robotics to applications, which is our case in assistive robotics. And before to our group, I want also to mention something related to our lab. We recently started the Vivo Hub. It's also a collaboration. I didn't say that. So Bristol Robotics Lab is a collaboration between University of Bristol and University West of England, which is amazing because all the robotics in the city are here in this building for the reason we are so many people. And we got this funding, which is also collaboration between both universities, and is an investment from the government to push the technology to be applied at home to support individuals at home, not only older adults, people with different conditions. And we are looking here to smart clothing, folds, and other related issues that we have discovered investigating the needs with the NHS. Also, to let you know, we will be hiring people in the next months, PhD students, postdocs. So please follow in LinkedIn and in the networks that you have. So now let's go to our group. We are a small group compared the full laboratory. This picture is from the team during the summer, but we are more people than this. We are co-leading the group with Professor Marcela. She's actually on maternity leave. And we work in that topic. We have a space when we develop research in general, but we also have spaces when we can develop studies with users before to go to test in care homes or hospitals. Just to show you a little bit our research, as you can see in the left, we have some applications of social robots in healthcare, in rehabilitation, cardiac rehab, neurological rehab, also how to support children with neurodiversity, and some other works in wearable robotics, exoskeletons, prosthetics, and assistance in general. Also, as this discussion is about internationalization, I tried to catch our recent collaborators that we have been more involved in the last 2 years. Of course, we have been collaborating with many people around the world, but I identify some of the most frequent communications that I have by email. So we have collaboration with different groups in Asia, Europe, America, and Latin America as well. So moving forward to talk a little bit about our work. So as I say in the beginning, co-design is quite important for us. And we are targeting the ongoing crisis that we have. So we need to support staff and we need to enable people to be independent at home. So we know that this is a common problem right now in Europe, but it will be the future also in developing countries. So for the reason, most of our time is take a coffee or tea with users and understand their needs. So for instance, we collaborate with a network of care homes here in the Southwest, but we are very interested to understand worldwide different cultural aspects also about using technology and what are the fears about that. Also, we are very interested in children and also in the individuals with intellectual disabilities, neurodiversity. So we are being co-creating technology like social robots that can support them and also carers. In their work, kids are particularly interested in robots, so we work with them in design these tools. So moving forward to social assisted robots. So I'm trying to show some of the work that we are doing. So we are interested in developing interfaces that can improve the interaction between the user and the robot. For instance, if you see in the left, in the top part, this is cardiac rehab scenario. So we did a study around 3 years when the robot was basically a body supporting users in cardiac rehab, and we understood how beneficial can be these robots in terms of motivation and encouragement. And also, we are investigating how to move these social roles to care homes. So this also needs that people in care homes has presented. So they mentioned they will love to have a robot entering the care home, wandering around, asking people to move. And also, you can see in the button here where we can see Jikun in the left in the button, and we are also interested in develop more cognitive therapies. So one of the therapies that we're exploring is reminiscence therapy or nostalgia therapy. So the robot can show images or can show objects from the past of the user and can develop long conversations, of course, involving language models and other kind of modalities to support or to maintain this interaction. Other part that we are exploring is microprompting, which is also something that has been used in the past a lot, but it's also how these social roles can guide people to prepare a cup of tea, to move around, to develop healthy habits at home. So this is part of our ongoing work. So if you come here right now, we are running tests in care homes in our assisted living lab, understanding this need and how we can push this technology forward. So social robots cannot be only social humanoids, can be also assistive devices. So for instance, we are working with some other entrepreneurs in the regions, Milbotics. They develop a sock that can monitor the walking of the user. So we are connecting the sock with the assistive walker, and we can detect when the user has a gait deterioration or an stumble or an ear fall, and we can provide this guidance to the user and trigger alarms to family members or carers when it's needed. But this robot, it can be also a social device that can guide you in different activities at home. So this is an example. The robot here is guiding the user to do properly sit to stand.
Here to assist you with tasks today. I will talk to you and use lights in my screen to explain. Great job. Now, it's time to move on to the stand to sit exercise. I hope you're feeling pumped. Approach the chair next to the nightstand.
So this is as we are monitoring the human body, so we can understand how the user is performing and guide the user accordingly. So as I mentioned before, also children is part of our interest, and particularly in terms of research, we are interested in human touch. So if we enable kids to touch robots and we enable robots to understand this physical interaction. So we have been doing studies, let's say multi-center study in different countries, understanding if we enable kids to touch these robots in therapy, let's particularly with children with autism, but also in other neurodiversities, how it can increase the interaction and the engagement for these kids to come back for therapy or to come back to the school for teaching. Right now, we are developing some sensors based on fiber optics that can help us to understand this physical interaction that we will be presenting in IROS this year. We are very interested to integrate that in the robots and develop large studies across different countries and understand how we can push robotics in the treatment or in the support of carers, particularly with these kids with these particular conditions. So now we have still some time to talk about wearable robotics. Our experience in wearable robotics started some time ago. We developed this platform. It was called the Agora platform. It's a unilateral exoskeleton supporting people that suffer a stroke, and we were very interested in understand gait suit faces and understand and train models to understand gait, and with this information develop impedance controllers to assist users to improve the biomechanics. We were also interested in the body weight support, as you can see. So the robotic walker is assisting the user to promote balance or rehabilitate balance as well. We wanted to develop like a multi-joint or flexible tool for rehabilitation. But one of the things that we understood in this project was we need to work modular. And actually, most our main work is now related to the ankle and the hand, because it's where we see more opportunity to provide support, and also because it's actually a need in clinics in general. So we have been investigated how this ankle exoskeleton can be used for rehabilitation and also with serious games to promote rehabilitation also at home. We are very interested in that, so how we can install this, or how NHS in the future can deploy these exoskeletons at home and can be connected with the NHS and develop therapy. So for the reason, most of our work right now, this is current work that we are doing in the lab right now, is understanding with very detailed the gait of the user, and with this information provide assistance accordingly during the phases or during the whole gait cycle. So for instance, this user they have an episode of spasticity, we can detect this stiffness on time and provide assistance to correct that. We're also working on that in the hand, because as I mentioned, clinicians are from listening to them, they say they would like to have more tools for the ankle and the hand. So we are with hand exoskeletons, with previous prototype that we have, we are investigating how we develop therapies for specific therapies that clinicians can use for rehabilitate user, also to be deployed at home. In terms of research, we are quite interested in two topics right now in terms of exoskeletons. So how the exoskeleton can go ahead of the control, so that we know, for instance, detecting intention, as we saw also from Claudio, is a big research topic. So we want to integrate more modalities in that way, so our control systems can have more capacity to assist the user. So here we're investigating how we can use machine visions to get particular features that can allow to understand the intention of the user, for instance, for lifting, or for instance, in a hand therapy, as we saw in the previous video. The second topic that we are very interested is fatigue. So if we can model fatigue and understand fatigue, probably the system can detect fatigue online, or can have different discrimination of different levels of fatigue. It can potentially be used to assist with exoskeletons or prosthetics. So now we are doing big data collections with users. Also, is connected with a PhD student working with prosthetics as well. So we are doing studies with, let's say, non-amputees and amputees to understand if we can understand fatigue. But we are not looking to EEG or ENG. We are of course, collecting this data to understand what is happening, but we are mainly based in kinematics. So our hypothesis there is kinematic deterioration can allow us to understand different levels of fatigue. So we have right now preparing some publications accordingly and see how we can move forward in that area. So finally, I wanted to advertise a couple of things. So as I mentioned, one of the topics that we're interested is older adults and care homes. So we have an interesting event happening in Bristol. So if you are in UK, we invite you to come. We still have open places until the end of the month. So we'll be talking with different experts from different areas, gerontechnology, sociology, and NHS, to integrate robotics to support people living with dementia. So we have some prototypes, and we will demonstrate on that day, but we are collaborating not only to develop, but also how we adapt in the future to this, because we are developing technology, but after we spent many years in the integration in the society, so we want to work with these different entities from the beginning. So this is a workshop that we had one last year, and we are doing the second one, and we're mainly focused on dementia. And also in the right, we are presenting this workshop in IROS, also related about enhancing human engagement in social assistive robotics. We have still open submissions. We'll be happy to see you there. Thank you very much, and I'm also happy to discuss or to reply any questions. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Carlos. Really interesting presentation as well, as usual. I'll start again with a couple of questions, and then if any, I can see someone is typing questions in the chat as well. So I can see that you work with varied sort of different age groups. with you specialize with young people, but also very like elderly people. And I'm assuming I wanted to ask if you've seen a difference in the response or the acceptance that different age groups have. Like, are generally children more acceptive, or are they more sort of prone to more open to robots than, or to new technology in general than elderly people are? Or is there are the different trends there?
Thank you, Gianmarco. Yeah, this is a critical point because we can say that let's say the older adults right now, people over 80 years old, they are more reluctant to use robotics technology for many reasons. We know in the story and movies and many things that happen. But we need to work with them, of course, because they have the needs. So we need to find a way to understand their needs and support them if we want to have solutions in the short term. But another group that we need to look is people, let's say, young, older adults, people over 50 years old. So we are also collaborating with them because they engage more with technology. They grow up with with games, with different technologies, and so let's say these solutions for older adults. We believe we are designing for the next generation. Of course, we would like to deploy something for the ongoing generation, but we can see that the more people that will see more benefits will be the young older adults. And working with kids and with people with intellectual disabilities is also a huge problem right now, and there are still many barriers to implement technology there. Actually, there are not a lot of interest, and there are not a lot of opportunities of funding to look at these populations, but it's something that we require to work as well. And in this particular case, any technology, any support that we can do for the user, but also for carers, has a lot of value. So we need to work also together to develop technology for this population. Thank you.
That's very good points. I've got a couple more questions, but I can see in the chat there's already 3 questions from the same person, but I'm gonna focus on them and then I'll save mine for later. So the question is, hi, Professor Carlos. Thanks for the very interesting talk. I have a few questions. First one, is remote exercise a relevant part of assistive robotic technology?
Yeah. This is an interesting topic, and there have been different researchers working on that, how to engage people in physical exercise. Of course, we have still some limitations in terms of, let's say, experiments. Most of the studies have been short experiments with a small quantity of people, but we believe with the increase of humanoids or robotics, the prices are getting lower. So probably in the future we will see more, let's say, clinical studies, because we have seen more usability studies in that area. But this is a particular thing that carers would love to have. So of course, we don't want to replace humans, but they would like to have this kind of social entities that can assist people, that can motivate people to move around, to do strength, to move, to do exercise. So there is opportunity, of course, for let's say, robotic technology in that area.
Perfect. And sometimes it's not a matter of replacing humans. I don't think we've got enough humans to do that job, so we need robots sometimes. So yeah, thank you. Second question is, would your team hire postdoc researchers to conduct qualitative studies?
Let's say at this time, no, but we would like to have soon, depending on funding opportunities. We do a lot of qualitative studies with master students and PhD students. So it is really part of our interest, of course, but probably soon we'll have opportunity for postdocs.
Perfect. And then finally, are precise physical dynamics, prediction, simulation important to such assistive wearable devices?
Totally. I didn't present that here, but all of these prototypes that you saw always start with a test bed, and we need to model the geometry of the system first, and after the forces, and so every device requires a lot of modeling before to wear on something. And of course, now with soft robotics, we need to explore also more complex modeling. this is the fundamental part. And of course, simulation of the students usually when they want to implement any kind of control from these models, we work first in simulations before to go to test with mannequin or a real user.
Perfect, amazing. I'll stop there, and then because we can just carry on the discussion later. And I guess thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for accepting our invite. And I think we can move to Zhi Kang now.
Yep. Right. Are you able to see my full screen?
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Gianmarco and Giacinto, for organizing this webinar, and it's a pleasure to share along with Claudio and Carlos as well. Very good sharing. And of course, just like to emphasize apologies for my material that I'm sharing, not too much focusing on theory-based and also research, but however, I would like to share more about what Fourier Rehab is doing by integrating the rehab robotics and also the humanoid robot application towards to the robot rehab settings. Yep. So just sharing a brief introduction about Fourier as a group. So we are our headquarters is based in Shanghai, and currently we have close to 500 employees in total. And under Fourier Group, we have actually two divisions. One would be the Fourier Rehab, where I'm currently focusing in, and of course we have another division focusing in the Fourier Robotics, which is producing the humanoid robot. So in Fourier Rehab, what we are trying to achieve as we have identified some of the market challenges that we have seen the challenges in terms of the adoption of rehab robotics in some of the hospital or clinic, mainly revolving in terms of the cost and also complexity in terms of the usage of rehab robotics. And of course, some oftenly the rehab spaces has been offered in a very minimal space compared to the other specialty as well. So Fourier Rehab, we are trying to resolve the challenges by providing more affordable modular devices and easy to use devices for patient and also therapies to operate in their daily living. So Fourier, we are also very much in focusing in collaborating in terms of clinicians and also researcher in creating a tools that a therapist are wishing to have as well. So, but of course, as you can see in the background, Fourier, we're actually having the Rehab Hub concept, consists of 10 or more devices, but of course, not all the devices is being built in-house by Fourier, but however, we are also collaborating with a lot of research institute by commercializing technology as well. So just a bit on the milestone of Fourier, we as a Fourier group, we established in year 2015. So we are one of the China-based exoskeleton company that produce the upper limb and factor-based robot and also exoskeleton with crutches base. And of course, throughout the time that we are trying to produce a cost-effective solution, and meaning that we have also built the actuator and sensors in-house as well. So this lead to our development in terms of producing the humanoid robot project being started. And in year 2020, we have a full suite of complete upper limb, lower limb, and some of the movement and balance devices came into the big, in our whole portfolio, and this is called the Rehab Hub concept. And of course, we have completing majority of the medical regulation registration, including FDA and CMDR registration, which allow us to commercialize to close to 65 countries now at the moment. And of course, we have introduced the Meta Motors Galileo system. It's also one of the immersive training devices for patient as well. And of course, in year 2024 and also 2023 and 2024, we have introduced the and mass manufacturing the humanoid robot into the market as well. Right. So next, so in terms of the core business division, we have actually separate into two: general robotics, where we offer humanoid robots to the market, but of course, it's not mainly focusing towards like to offer a build up applications devices to the end user. However, this general humanoid robot, mainly we wanted to collaborate with universities and also companies to co-build the application together. So a lot of the research being involved, and we are open to work with a lot of the universities, where we also provide the baseline model and also the low-level tool support, including the SDK to the client as well. Whereas on the right side would be more on Fourier Rehab, where we have already offered more close to 2,000 devices to the market, which are covering close to 30 products in our portfolio into the market as well. And of course, a lot of the core technology like the hardware expertise, algorithm, software, and also the robot design is being built in-house. And Fourier, we believe that it's important to collaborate with a lot of the engineering researchers and also clinicians to further validate our devices. So we have collaborations from east to west, as stated over here in the picture, in terms of the collaboration of engineering and also clinical research with these professors. So in terms of our Fourier Rehab strategic focus, so what we are trying to focus will be mainly on these three areas: research and education, where we offer our X series of product, and meaning that we offer our devices and also collaborators from the other universities that also, like what I've mentioned earlier, would be the SDK and also low-level tool supports to majority of the researcher to further develop from their technology. And of course, Fourier, we are also interested to looking into the commercialization of universities' projects, which is meaningful and able to adapt to our series of product as well. And of course, medical rehab robots, M series, where we have also commercialized to the market that being used by the patient. However, last but not least, we also believe in the H application as well, where we also produce some of the home use product being offered to the patient, whereas they only required like some of the active and also resistive motion during their treatment back home. So what we are trying to achieve is to have conventionally, as you can see, one-to-one therapy, but we want as we want to provide more intensity and repetitive movement to the therapy to the patient. So we are also offering the combination. We are encouraging the combination of intelligence technology with rehab robotics. Any movement that require intensity movement will be carried out through rehab robotics, and anything that is required more manual movement is still important to have therapies to do conventional therapy to the patient as well. So this is the rehab hub that I've shared earlier. We have close to 10 rehab robotics in our portfolio, ranging from upper extremity, lower extremities to offer to the client. But however, what we are focusing more on the for upper limb, we are focusing more on end effector based devices, where we want patient to achieve their ADL activities, whereas for lower limb, we offer the exoskeleton-based devices with bodyweight support system to ensure patient safety during their training as well. However, under the Rehab Hub concept, we are also having the option to integrate with the digital management platform we call Infinity Net, where all the Rehab Hub devices able to connect under one roof, where this Infinity Net able to also schedule a patient timetable therapies schedule to attend towards to the patient. And of course, when patient entering the hospital and when they discharge from the hospital, we can actually see the summary of the training. And of course, with this Infinity Net, we are also collaborating with some of the hospital to look into the AI prediction model for the future predictive model for recovery. And of course, we are also motivated to look into the 5G based remote rehab system, where we are also promoting the tele rehab system, where we connect, where it's able to connect device to device in both like a distance away between hospital as well. So therapists and therapists able to interact with each other in terms of training, and also therapists and patient able to train each other in a remote environment as well. Okay, so this is the Rehab Hub concept, upper extremity, where we break down into modular, where EMU M2 Pro is focusing on elbow and shoulder, wrist focusing in wrist function, whereas lower limb, we have ankle devices and exomotors for lower limb treatment, whereas we also having the Meta Motors Galileo, the advanced technology. So this is a 6 degree of freedom built-in system to simulate the environment, bringing the environment closer to the patient during their recovery stage as well. And of course, we have the movement and balance devices under the portfolio. So this is the Meta Motors Galileo. So it's totally a customizable solutions for a patient, where it comes with a large LED curve screen with a 6 degree of freedom platform where we generate movement. So it able to train wheelchair patient, even during acute stage of patient. We can combine it with the exoskeleton devices to train under a very safe environment, where we simulate a lot of virtual environment for patient and prepare them towards to the real life scenario. And of course, under the Rehab Hub concept, we also introduce the group therapy concept, where device and device able to connect with each other to do group therapy, where if you can see in the scenario, the user and user, they are currently competing each other in terms of the exercise and also collaborative exercise as well. All right, so in terms of the tele-rehab through 5G network, that what I've mentioned earlier, so we can actually do the real-time positioning, where two devices in both different location able to having the real-time coordination in terms of the movement, and also the force interaction as well, where you can see on the right. Right. So whereas we also extend this not just within 3.5 kilometers, but also having a trial with some of the base hospital, like Beijing Hospital, connecting to the other rural area, like in Inner Mongolia and Gansu province as well. So another feature under the Rehab Hub system is we also having the remote monitoring and control system under the Infinity Net. So as a therapist, we are able to hold the tablets to control multiple devices at the same time, meaning that we are a therapist able to monitor a few patients at the same time without interrupting their training. So the therapist able to adjust the intensity through the tablet as well. So another intention that I would like to share is the development in terms of human robot. Of course, Fourier, we are trying to look into the potential usage of scenario of human robot in terms of the rehab setting. So we are also looking forward to work closely with any of collaborators interested in this area. But of course, we are not trying to replace the therapies, like what Carlos has mentioned. So we are trying to provide more social interaction, and of course trying to maybe provide them more assessment and tools for a therapist to treat a patient. Maybe some of the more labor intensive job can be prescribed by the robot, and therapists can focus more on the assessment and prescription of training towards to the patient as well. So these are some of the potential applications that we are looking into, but of course we understand that the commercialization is complicated, and of course we are looking for collaborator to look into this area of collaboration. So another area will be in terms of the teleoperation through occupational health, where therapists imagining they are wearing a Vision Pro camera and they can able to control the humanoid robot, whereas to replicate the exercise to be used by the patient on a remote setting. All right, so here is some of the studies that I would like to share that Fourier currently, we are also collaborating with a joint lab of us, like Cheryl Ryan Ability Lab, where we are doing some of our experiment with the exoskeleton to do initial haptic rendering to having a multi-robot interaction. So on the right is the real application, where therapist able to train together with the patient to feel the patient condition, and also a therapist able to provide input to what is the gait intention or the right gait for the patient as well. And of course, this is another studies by the Flinders University and University of South Australia, similar to the earlier studies, but this is using the motion capture system Vicon to capture the therapist motion, to replicate the motion on the exoskeleton as well. And this is feasibility studies conducting together with them. And on another end as well, Fourier, we are the Rehab robotics company. And of course, the next initiative of us is looking into commercialization on some of the potential application in terms of brain-computer interface technology to control a exoskeleton or lower limb robots or even upper limb robot with this function as well. So there are some ongoing trials with our lower limb exoskeleton with Nanyang Technological Universities in terms of with our devices. So we are looking into potential commercialization into this area in the future. So yeah, with this, I would like to conclude my presentation slides. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much. This is a big overview of what you guys do over there. It's really interesting. Yeah, again, as usual, I'll break the ice with a couple of questions first, and then if anyone in the chat wants to ask them, feel free to. So I've got a couple. The first one is on sort of humanoids. Sometimes humanoids are sort of overtaking the market right now. Everyone's talking about humanoids. Everyone's using them. I guess what's the specific advantage of having a humanoid specifically in rehabilitation and adaptive care compared to like traditional robot or anything that's a bit more conventional? What are the main advantages?
Yep. Thanks a lot, Gianmarco, for the question as well. So what we are thinking in terms of the humanoid robot application, and of course, we understood that some of the existing robot currently, they are able to travel from places to places. They are able to achieve some of the area that achieve the application purposes. But of course, humanoid robot is served as a human-alike body. So I think they are able to provide more social friendly. We are able to interact with them more socially, whereas they look similar to the environment that we are communicating with as well. So this is one of the reason. Whereas I think, of course, there are still a lot of challenges, but what we are foreseeing, like imagine like COVID hits again. So potentially these are some of the devices, I would say devices that are able to maybe travel around to different community settings or home settings for treatments towards to the patient as well. But of course, again, there are still a lot of challenges that we are foreseeing in terms of the commercialization.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Another question I had was on I don't remember the full name, the Galileo sort of system that you use for rehabilitation. Something I've never seen before. I think it's the first of its kind for me at least. I'm not that much into rehabilitation. How does it exactly work, and what's the response of people? How do people interact? Like, do they find it's very similar to the real environment? What's the feedback that you get from users?
Yep. So I guess that currently for this system, we have 5 installations worldwide. So what we are trying to achieve on this system is not just revolving in terms of neuro rehab recovery, but of course it can be customized into sports rehabilitation, and also like wheelchair adaptation, prosthetic leg adaptation for a patient which is just recently got their leg amputated. So what we are trying to achieve is to simulate real scenario under a protecting factors where we having the safety feature of the horse, but trying to bring patient closer to the environment so they can actually be more prepared socially and psychologically prepared towards the real life environment that they are facing. But of course, I think for these solutions, we do not have a fixed specification, but however, we identify what is the needs of the client to prescribe the itemized item for the entire system as well.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. I can see there's a question in the chat, which is very similar to what Giacinto and I were going to discuss, sort of open the discussion with, but it's a perfect sort of transition to the discussion. So the question goes, thank you for the talk, very interesting. There are a lot of teleoperation and exercises. I'm wondering if you're looking to open to the UK market or university collaboration. What are the barriers to form such collaboration internationally? Finally, what's the biggest hardware and software technology challenges for rehabilitation robotics from the industry perspective?
All right. Yeah, thanks. So I see there are 3 questions. If we are open to look into the UK market, and yeah, I think definitely we are already stepped into the UK market where we have, I think in terms of the whole European region, we have the highest installation base of our devices located in UK, where we have also having collaboration with the National Robotorium in Edinburgh as well. So we have also collaborated with a lot of the private institute like Escort Rehab, Steps Rehabilitation in Sheffield. So these are some of the centers that we have already in our adoption. And of course, in terms of the universities, yes, we are looking into collaborations that we can potentially look into the research area together as well. Yeah. So to the second questions, what are the barriers to form such collaboration internationally? For us, I think that probably, I mean, we just need to discuss about what would be the area of collaboration, and definitely we could find a way to like see how we could resolve the barrier. But of course, what we are seeing would be the resources, like who to conduct the research and also the funding. So these would be some of the barrier that we are looking at it. We see the challenges now. Other than that, I think there isn't much barrier that we can look into our collaborations. Yeah. Finally, what's the biggest hardware and software technology challenges for rehab robotics from the industry perspective? I think what is the biggest challenges that we are facing, and of course, is to identify the needs of the therapists on what are the application or tools that therapists wanted to treat their patient. So oftenly, I think Fourier, we have been working very hard in terms of defining the hardware and of course the software applications towards to the usage. So we always having a two-way communication between therapists and also the patients and also the researcher, tri-party collaborations to ensure that we created a tools that is perfectly able to fit to the clinical settings. Yeah.
Perfect. Again, thank you very much, Zhi Kang, for joining us. And I think what we're going to do now, we're going to open the room for discussion and just leave the stage to Giacinto to just start the discussion for everyone.
So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I would like to answer to a question that is for each one of you by extending the one of the member of our audience that is so proactive in offering us new perspectives and such questions. So thank you also to Xintong. So I would like to ask you, starting with Zhi Kang, since you already answered to part of the question, what kind of barriers you can perceive in the adoption of the technology and the technology transfer from academia to the industrial context, and also the barriers that this is the additional part I would like to propose you. What kind of barriers you can perceive in the co-design process, especially for involving the final users? considering both the individual users you are involving for your user studies and the associations of the users, because they're probably one of the most critical actors that sometimes are ignored during most of the project's execution. So let's start with Zhi Kang about the co-design, and then we will proceed with Carlos and Claudio for both the barriers between academia and industry and the co-design issues. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Giacinto, for the question. So, from my perspective, I just want to share a case studies that we had when we commercialized a technology from a patent from University of Melbourne. So, what we are foreseeing in terms of the challenges is the baseline model, but of course researchers are having a baseline model of devices, but the challenges is in terms of the commercialization, where we have to focusing in terms of the design of the devices and make it feasible for the usage. And of course, you know, at that point of time, we have spent about 2 years to complete 26 design iterations. So it's kind of like I mean, time consuming for us to commercialize the technology. But of course, I think the challenges is to not just also to gather the feedback, not just within one organization, but however looking into collaboration with various organizations from maybe from different regions like Middle East, Asia Pacific, North America, to gather all this feedback to understand their feasibility, to come up with a final design that suits majority of the needs as well. So I guess it's not the easy process. Yeah, I hope I answered the questions.
So thank you very much. There will be an extension of this question related to the British market, but you already answered to part of it. Carlos, now, please, first the barriers between academia and industry, and then the co-design issues. Thank you.
In terms of the barriers with academia and industry, I think always the problem is funding, because the interest we have is really, at least here in UK, it's really easy to collaborate with industry, with entrepreneurs, but is to find the right funding opportunity that allows to collaborate. I think this is the more challenging. In terms of adoption, of course, we need to work with clinicians and high-level clinical leads to work in this adaptation and integration in the system. In terms of co-design, I have seen that one of the challenges is always to have the voice of everyone. No, it's how we can incorporate underserved communities, because of course most of the co-designs usually they target a specific group, but we need to try to have a good sample that we can have the voice of everyone, people with different cultures, different backgrounds, underserved communities. I think this is very relevant. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will have a question for you after this round, specifically for discussing about the UKRAS and the different councils. Also for informing our guests about the opportunities for collaborating with the British universities like ours. And now, Professor Castellini, if Claudio, you can answer to the same question.
So adoption commercialization, I am not the best person to ask because my group is so far almost only a scientific research group. I feel that there's a big gap to be filled, and I connect to Carlos about so whatever you want to commercialize, you have to have a project in which you work together with a company. And usually, so the European projects being a remarkable exception, but usually at the German level, companies need to co-finance. So they need to be convinced already that there is some potential. Otherwise, why would they do that? And then there's a further point. At the European level, certifying a medical device is a nightmare. Respecting the GDPR is simply, I mean, I'm lucky me, I'm not involved in that, but I hear the same reports from everyone. So this is like, takes you years and years of manpower and money. So yeah, that's, which in the end, I mean, it's good on one hand because we want to provide maximum safety to our patients. but it really slows down, hinders the process. What was the second part, Giacinto?
Co-design, the issues you can find in the involvement of the final users.
Co-design, we filed for a European project 1 year ago, and it was rejected. There's several aspects to that. So in this project, we wanted sort of the large project coordinated by, would be coordinated by Raoul Bongers of Groningen, people who have been studying a lot into this issue. It should start from the requirements of the hardware, possibly. So involving these people. So I was in Copenhagen at EMBC 1 week ago, right? And there's one single motto that I bring with me, that you don't want to start from an idea, even as a researcher in this field. You want to start from a medical need. So there's a patient which needs, a class of patients which needs something to be done because it doesn't work so far, or because there is no solution so far. So if you start from that, you should immediately involve, say, single patients, the clinics, international association of those patients, in order to really understand what's missing, and then start designing with them since the very start. I believe. And then, of course, there's this loop of how much was that, development, change, and redevelopment. So you need to keep those people into the loop at all times. And if I may add to this idea of incremental learning goes into that direction, right? So even the machine learning model in the very end. So once co-adaptation is, albeit temporarily, finished, when you have a model that the machine and the user have co-designed somehow, it fits this philosophy, in my opinion.
That's a really great answer, especially because you introduced two topics that I would like to develop more. One is the one is related to the European project, to Horizon Europe, especially because typically in the community, I remember the word bloodbath is used for describing the outcome of most of the proposals. And I would like to discuss about the differences between, and Carlos probably can add some insights on this, between the Horizon Europe participation of the UK and the UKRAS participation of, let's say, non-British countries. The other aspect, let's say, is related to the fact that you were mentioning the regulatory agencies and all the aspects like the MDR, for instance, the medical devices regulation in Europe. In Italy, I remember we waited for like 7 years for the actual implementation of the rules, for trying to unifying any policies related to risk assessment of the medical devices or the usability, like the 62366 or the IEC and the ISO standards. So probably I'm relatively new in the British context, and I would like to, I should study more, honestly, on the adoption and the regulation of the medical devices, the robotic medical devices, in our case, in the UK. And also discussing about the impact of the medical, of the AIs and the agents in particular as medical devices, because now part of the rules are also related to them. And since we are making the machines interact with the living matter, literally, of the people, we need to be really careful in terms of value-sensitive design and the ethical aspects, obviously. Carlos, may I ask you to comment this part and the differences you can find between let's say, the medical robotic devices regulation, and also the projects between Europe, the European projects, and the UKRAS, and how much we can invite people to apply as partners let's say, to the calls of the UKRAS, because I tried a couple of times, honestly, and probably it would be a priority, because Europe is so much, and the world as a whole has so much to offer to the UK, and the UK has much to offer to the rest of the world and to Europe. How we can foster the collaboration, considering the barriers also in the medical devices regulation that are different?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry
So,
for
so
the
many
big
questions, but I
question.
will try to pick some of them. So
The
I
one
think
for Zhi Kang later is
yeah,
worse. So Zhi Kang, prepare yourself. Okay.
no problem. So no, I would like to say that our experience here with doing testing with the NHS, we need to pass let's say a prototype certification phase that can last like 6 months. And after also we need the ethical approval. If we want to go to the NHS, of course, it can also last between 3 and 6 months. But I would like to say that the best advice is have brilliant people there that can help you. So people inside of the NHS that can help you to define the specific cohort of patients that we will treat and in a way that can be more feasible for approval. And also in terms of the certification for research of the devices, we need to have someone good in translation in our group, which Nigel Harris, he helped a lot to in this process. So I will say we need to work. It's also the from the beginning. We need to work multidisciplinary. We need people from different backgrounds. If we try to do everything alone, it will be really hard. And in terms of research funding, I have the opportunity sometimes to add external European collaborators or let's say international collaborators, most of advisors. And I think it's really, it has a like, good impressions for reviewers if we have let's say the top researchers supporting specific areas that we are investigating on. Also, if they can add as an advisory board that we have in Vivo Hub, we have many representative from industry in Europe and scientists. So I think in this role is quite straightforward. If we want to provide funding, there are some particular collaborations, I believe, with Norway or Finland. We can add them directly in the work package of the project. There are also some bilateral collaborations. We need to look at this. But in the other side, we have Horizon program that we are from last year. We can lead proposals and we can be part of it. And I have we from the last year we have applied 1, 2, and the collaboration has been really good in general. And of course, I don't know how the review will see our participation when they are assessing the proposal, if we are leading or something, but at least with our collaborators in Europe, they are like pushing us to lead or collaborate with in a way that we can be part of this enormous funding opportunity. I don't know, it is mostly, or there is something missing?
It's perfect. It's a really huge question, and also the response was perfect. Trust me. At this point, in this moment, this very moment, we need also to restrain ourselves from taking too much time because we already passed the 90 minutes, let's say, of the webinar. But I'd like to ask Zhi Kang, how is the relationship between companies like yours and the associations of users? So it's not about the final users, as I said, but the communities. For instance, I have strong relationship with the European Association Network for the Rehabilitation in Multiple Sclerosis. I understand that if we involve them directly, we have in a project potentially even 3,000 patients, which means the 3,000 sample size that is quite huge for testing a new medical device. And the problem there could be creating an ethical protocol that can be approved easily for having such an impact. Do you expect to have such numbers in the next years / months, maybe, for testing devices like the Galileo platform? That is incredible, honestly. And I would like to have it not only for playing, as many people can think if they know me, but also for making user tests. Do you think that could be possible to involve such entities for having a huge sample size and making in 3 years, let's say, a really rich validation of these devices?
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. I think, yes, that's possible that we can involve such organization with big sample size, but of course, it depends on what are the like things that we wishing to achieve, right? So I think for Fourier, if let's say we are looking into the AI predictive model, then yes, it makes sense to have such big sample size. But in terms of the clinical effective studies, so we generally, I mean, of course, under the CMDR context, if I understand correctly, but of course, I'm not from the regulatory department. So I guess that probably they have sample size studies of patient, probably a certain number, but not up to 3,000 to look into the validation of the clinical safety and effectiveness of the validation. So I would say if looking into the certification, probably just by collaborating with organization or hospital would be sufficient. But yeah, so this is some of my comments. Yeah.
Thank you very much, especially considering that when we are talking with the medical doctors and to the expert patients, selected patients that are already used several devices, and also when we involve the associations, we can polish most of the usability issues, for instance, in a device, because they after the check of 5 people, typically, we can remove even the 90% of the ergonomic issues in any kind of system. So after removing these problems in these flows, for instance, in the user interface, it's possible to make the improvement without having necessarily such big numbers. But probably before reaching the deployment of the device, it would also always be better to have as much patients we can and as many users we can, sorry. There is a question, and I think that probably after the questions of Gianmarco, we can end this very first successful webinar that is like our pilot for the subsequent 8 ones, we will have. So, how serious would you think obtaining ethical approvals and the recent export control policy will hinder the development of the field? The strategies we as university researchers can take to thrive in the face of such barriers. So it's again the concern on the ethical approvals. So are ethical committees barriers and the rules, in your opinion? This is a question for each one of you. And then I will shut up, Gianmarco, I promise.
So I might say a couple of things about this. The ethical approval. So I'm not sure this gentleman means ethical approval for the user studies for the preliminary ones or ethical approval for commercializing a device. Now, in the latter case, I cannot really answer. The former case usually also is a hindrance, but I believe it must be there. So someone who watches over your experiments not being dangerous for your users in your lab, that must be there by all means. Even better if you connect to a clinic and then the clinic will obtain, hopefully, the ethical approval from its own ethical committee. Now, that can be an annoying process if you see it from the point of view of our students who don't care about that, but they only want to test their tools on patients, but it needs to be there. And it heavily depends on, how can I put it diplomatically, how research-oriented this ethical committee is. I mean, of course, any kind of doubts can be raised on the safety of your experiment. As long as it is not a clinical trial, but a user study, then things get a little better, well, much better, actually. And then, well, in places such as ours, in which the university clinicum is part of the university, they do know that we need to do experiments on users before trying anything else. So they are, I would say, quite reasonable. efficient, fast, and they won't raise doubts unless there is a serious risk for the participants.
Thank you very much.
So back to your question, how serious is this? Well, it's serious, but not disastrous. Ethical approval for the users.
Thank you very much, Claudio. Especially, it would be necessary, in my opinion, also to provide the researchers with a series of guidelines on the best practices. For instance, having an able body adapter for testing lower limb prosthesis instead of giving it directly to an amputee. So even the students can be involved for their projects. Luckily, in the UK, I found that for making a very preliminary study, 6 weeks are enough for obtaining the okay of an ethical committee. Carlos?
Thank you. Yes, I think most of the responses was with Claudio, but I will say that it's something that we need to get more familiar with. So it's really needed from the beginning. And we need from the beginning of the project, we need to explore this ethics approval, defining the protocol well and scale this. It is a test in the university, but it's something national or something. We need to have also the support of different people. So from my first response, so we need to work with people that have experience of that, clinicians that can help us to build something clear that for ethical reviewers can be clear also for them to understand what we want to do.
Thank you very much. Zhi Kang, thinking about the ethical committees you're related with in projects that are more academic, let's say.
To be honest, I think I couldn't answer this question too well. I think Claudio and Carlos has answered it quite well. So to me, I think it's important, but sometimes, the ethical approval probably it will take times for the being approved for the study. But I think it's important to have the process to be conducted.
Thank you very much. Gianmarco?
I'd love just one last simple question for everyone, just to close the webinar. Before this webinar, did you guys know each other and had you collaborated together? Or is this the first time you guys are meeting? And I don't mean just that specific person. I mean the institution. Have you ever worked together? If you're aware of. I'm assuming no. Who wants to answer that first? Yeah, Claudio. Oh.
You mean whether I ever collaborated with Zhi Kang or with Carlos?
Or with the institution, with Bristol and...
No, not yet.
No.
Not yet, never.
Okay.
We had extensive chat in Chicago with Zhi Kang about potential cooperation with Fourier. That was the Rehab Week 2025. Right. So the answer, long story short, no, but I would like to.
Yeah. Cool. I'm assuming that's the same for everyone then.
The same here, yeah.
Yep, likewise, yeah. Yeah, I think we have visited Carlos before, and we did discuss some potential collaboration during the Rehab Week as well. But I think I would be happy to further on a conversation with Claudio and Carlos to explore the collaboration with the institution as well.
Perfect. So hopefully after this, we give you a chance to sort of better know each other and further these collaborations. And I think that's it. I think we can close the first webinar here. I don't know, Jacinto, do you want to have a last word? Want to say anything?
No. I already said too much. Especially because I know all our speakers in person. So I'm happy to say that I have a relationship with each one of them. Sorry.
Perfect. Okay. In that case, thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and thanks again to the guest for coming to speak to us. It's been very interesting, and looking forward for the next one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
See you later.
Gianmarco. Thank you, Giacinto. Bye.
Bye-bye.